Chapter 8:26. I'm the one who Illinois kill you. Since they weren't disciples of the sect, their death wouldn't matter. The people of the law enforcement hall didn't bother with ordinary non-cultivators. So, just burying them was enough. It wouldn't cause any commotion. Jiang Hao didn't know how many people had come from the Heavenly Saint sect. But it was definitely more than just this one person. He just had to wait for the arrival of the Holy Master. Jiang Hao had been waiting from May until June. During this time, he encountered 3 strong individuals from the Heavenly Saint sect. If they were disciples, he wouldn't lay a hand on them, but if they entered as ordinary people, he would kill them all, especially at the Cliff of Broken Hearts. The only regret was that their storage treasures seemed to lack spirit stones. The absence of spirit stones was surprising. It seemed even the Heavenly Saint sect was broke. However, he found some cultivation techniques. He could collect them for the future to see if they would be useful. One day, Jiang Hao felt a reaction from the mountain sea seal. It meant that the Holy Master was about to arrive. Jiang Hao muttered a spell in the beast's ear in the courtyard. The spell would help the spirit beast take Xiao Li to inform the Cliff Master to alert Mu Qi. The Holy Master is about to arrive, and there might be people from the Heavenly Saint sect nearby, not just inside, but also outside. Jiang Hao lowered his head in thought. The Holy Master was everything to the Heavenly Saint sect. When his avatar arrived, the Heavenly Saint sect would undoubtedly make a big move. If anyone affected the Holy Master's appearance, the Heavenly Saint sect would go mad. They were waiting and biding their time for an attack. However, as soon as he arrived at Senior Mu Qi's house, he frowned. There was a faint and elusive aura in the surroundings. It was concealed exceptionally well. Without the nameless manual, Jiang Hao wouldn't have sensed it. However, he didn't dare to probe it further. From the surrounding fluctuations in spiritual energy, he could tell that it was the presence of an immortal ascension platform expert. Why are they so well hidden? Jiang Hao was surprised. This person's methods were much stronger than the previous members of the Heavenly Saint sect. Such people were dangerous. Since he had detected them early, he couldn't act recklessly. He waited. Under the moonlight, Jiang Hao stood under a tree and used the nameless manual to sense the surroundings. After some time, he sensed more immortal ascension platform experts appearing. But these were not as formidable as the previous experts. Their concealment techniques were quite crude. They were all from the Heavenly Saint sect. It seems there are many people arriving. Jiang Hao was surprised. While Jiang Hao thought about what to do, a burst of light flickered outside the sect. Boom! A deafening sound reverberated. A powerful attack struck the mountain formation of the Heavenly Note sect. Jiang Hao saw people flying toward the sect's perimeter. Many people also left the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Senior Mu Qi's house was sealed off by a barrier, so they remained unaware. Jiang Hao knew why these people had taken action. Many people who entered had already died, and they feared their plan had been discovered. They were drawing the attention of the Heavenly Note sect away from their target. It seems I was too hasty. Jiang Hao couldn't help but sigh. He had killed them to reduce the risks, but he had ended up hurrying the inevitable. But it's just right. The chaos outside allowed him to act with peace of mind. He could blame all issues on the Heavenly Saint sect. However, he still couldn't understand who was hiding so well in the shadows. Feeling the changes in the mountain sea seal, Jiang Hao took out the Thousand Faces treasure fan. The one who intervened would naturally be Smiling San Sheng, not Jiang Hao. When he transformed into Smiling San Sheng, he suddenly realized who the person in the shadows was. The other party seemed to be here to collect the Holy Master's divine soul as well. Meanwhile, 3 people watched Mu Qi's courtyard. They needed to verify that Miao Tinglian was actually there. Everything seems to be going smoothly, said the only woman among the 3. At present, it seems fine. I don't know how the ones who came in earlier died. To be safe, we have our people in other places. If someone takes action, we can spread the news and then verify the situation, the middle-aged man said. People outside have launched an attack. They will buy us some time. There are no powerful experts here right now. It's just a matter of time, said a young man. Let's use the altar. Let the Holy Master descend. After confirming the situation, they planned to set up the altar to attract the Holy Master's divine soul. The Heavenly Note sect was in chaos right now, so they had an opportunity to act. Otherwise, it would have been dangerous. The sudden attack left the Heavenly Note sect bewildered. By the time they reacted, it was already too late. Do we need to catch Jiang Hao? Asked the woman. No need to create unnecessary trouble. Let the Holy Master descend first. Everything else can wait, said the middle-aged man. The others nodded. The Holy Master was the priority. After that, they prepared the altar to help the Holy Master descend quickly. Inside the house, Mu Qi frowned. He sensed danger. He had obtained an ancient inheritance in the mine, so he could naturally perceive many things. He looked at Miao Tinglian beside him in worry. At that moment, Miao Tinglian was at the table. She was carefully sorting out the spirit herbs. Why are you looking at me like that? She asked when she saw him staring. Don't you feel something? Mu Qi asked. He felt that Miao Tinglian was quieter today than before. No. I was just thinking of you, Miao Tinglian said. Let's leave first. Mu Qi stood up and pulled Miao Tinglian along. It was definitely not safe here. However, when they walked out, they found that there were explosions outside the sect. They had heard nothing from inside. It meant there was a barrier enclosing this place. Someone is targeting us, Mu Qi said. Not us. Me, said Miao Tinglian. She let go of his hand so that he could leave safely. But Mu Qi took her hand firmly in his. Mu Qi turned to look at her. His look of determination made her feel like laughing and crying at the same time. At that moment, a faint light descended from a distance, and Miao Tinglian swayed as if she was about to faint. We need to leave this place first. Mu Qi tried to leave with Miao Tinglian. However, a sword struck them. Boom. It was a simple attack. They managed to dodge it. 3 people walked out of the woods. They were all middle-aged men. They stared at Mu Qi with contempt. Kill him. This person is a real pain. I'll do it. A primordial spirit realm cultivator swung his blade at Mu Qi. Boom. As the attack struck Mu Qi, a shadow appeared on his body. It looked like a mythical hybrid of a fish and a monster. Boom. The shadow blocked the attack and sent the enemy flying. He spat out blood and stood up shakily. Not bad. Can you withstand a few more attacks? The middle-aged man took a step forward. Miao Tinglian felt anxious. She wanted to do something to protect Mu Qi. However, at that moment, flames appeared everywhere. Boom. The flame shot out from a distance and hit the middle-aged man. It forced him to retreat. Not bad. How many times will you be able to block me? Said a playful voice. Who are you? The middle-aged man was shocked. However, what frightened him more was that he felt someone standing behind him but hadn't sensed when they had approached. He heard laughter. I'm the one who will kill you. Isn't it obvious? I haven't killed you yet. Just wait for it. A flash of the blade, and the man was beheaded. The middle-aged man watched his companion's head separate from his body. He didn't even know what had happened. He heard another laugh. Do you know who I am? Chapter 8:27. The Divine Soul of the Holy Master. As the people dispersed, Jiang Hao looked at Mu Qi and Miao Tinglian with a smile. At that moment, he had a long blade in his hands. Didn't scare you, did I? This sudden greeting sent shivers down their spine. The person could appear behind them at any moment and behead them. Jiang Hao hadn't expected to make a move so soon. If senior brother Mu Qi could withstand the attacks, he wouldn't have tried to attack. Minor injuries didn't matter to him. As long as Mu Qi and Miao Tinglian could survive, he didn't need to act. There were still people hiding in the dark. He wanted to wait for the hidden people to make a move first. Unfortunately, the people from the Heavenly Saint sect were too strong. It was impressive that Mu Qi had been able to withstand the attacks as long as he had. If he continued to fight, he would really die. If there were more primordial spirit realm experts, Mu Qi might have been able to hold on a little longer. As for senior sister Miao, She was only a golden core realm cultivator and had no way to fight against the descent of the Holy Master. This was an inescapable situation. Mu Qi and Miao Tinglian had never thought that those who would attack them would be the ones at return to Void Realm or beyond. There might be even higher realm individuals hiding in the shadows. However, they didn't reveal themselves. If they did appear, Jiang Hao could only retreat and ask his master for help. It was still manageable now, but it was a pity that he had to act so soon. Thank you, senior, said Mu Qi in fear and respect. Jiang Hao grinned. Since I saved you, shouldn't you offer me some rewards? Mu Qi didn't say a word. He took out his storage treasure. There are 50,000 spirit stones in here. You can have them, senior. Jiang Hao was speechless. Senior brother Mu Qi was indeed wealthy. But he was still far behind. He still had more than 160,000 spirit stones. It was more than enough. Jiang Hao ignored the storage treasure and turned to the two Soul Ascension Realm cultivators. He smiled at them. Do you guys know who I am now? Who are you? Asked the middle-aged man warily. They had already informed the others. People began to surround them. This stranger's cultivation realm was unclear, but he was detonately not weak. However, they had no intention of fleeing. They felt honored to be able to contribute to the descent of the Holy Master. Do you think you can still be of use to the Holy Master if you end up dead here? Asked Jiang Hao with a smile. Then, I won't kill you for now. Let's wait together for the descent of your Holy Master, shall we? The two were overjoyed. It was an honor to be able to watch the descent of the Holy Master with their own eyes. Just as they were about to agree, a figure appeared behind them, and a glint of steel flashed past. With a sweep of the blade, the two were turned to ashes. Just kidding. How could you believe such a simple lie? He laughed. Mu Qi and Miao Tinglian looked at each other in fear. The person in front of them was unfathomable. He was unpredictable. It seemed that he could do anything as long as it fit his whims. Jiang Hao looked into the distance. People were arriving. They were at the return to Void Realm. There are really a lot of people in the Heavenly Saint sect. Jiang Hao wasn't worried that these people might escape. He had already set up the yin-yang bracelet before he took action. Thankfully, it hadn't been discovered by anyone. It seemed that the person in the Immortal Ascension platform had weakened some other aspects of his power to conceal himself. If his perception wasn't affected, he could detect the yin-yang bracelet. It was also possible that he couldn't detect it at all. As for the Heavenly Cauldron, he didn't dare make changes to it. He was afraid the person in hiding might discover it. He didn't want to startle the snake in the bushes. He hoped that whoever was hiding wouldn't realize the effect of the yin-yang bracelet. Otherwise, the person might escape while he tried to help Mu Qi and Miao Tinglian. Jiang Hao pretended he couldn't sense the person hiding in the dark. The person didn't seem to want to start a conflict just yet. The surrounding barrier had strengthened. At that time, the aura of the Holy Master became even more intense. It seemed that they were all waiting for the right moment. Jiang Hao turned to look at senior sister Miao Tinglian. She looked very pale. It seemed the Holy Master was very close. Jiang Hao smirked. He leaped toward Miao Tinglian with his blade. This sudden change shocked Mu Qi and Miao Tinglian. Everyone was shaken. Even the hidden person felt a fluctuation in his power. Jiang Hao was excited. He slashed down. Immediately, a primordial spirit realm cultivator jumped in front of her. Jiang Hao used the second form of the heavenly blade, mountain suppression. His blade rose and fell. The primordial spirit realm cultivator turned into ashes. Jiang Hao charged toward Miao Tinglian again. Many Heavenly Saint sect members rushed over and tried to buy time for the person trying to activate the altar secretly. If Miao Tinglian were injured, it would not only stop the descent of the Holy Master but also damage her soul severely. They couldn't afford that. There are so many of you. Jiang Hao slashed and killed the members of the Heavenly Saint sect one after another. No one could withstand his blade. They had never expected someone to target Miao Tinglian. Clearly, they had the upper hand, but they suddenly found themselves at a disadvantage. After killing enough people, Jiang Hao finally stopped. At that point, Miao Tinglian looked even paler than before, and the Heavenly Saint sect's people stood in front of her. They were afraid the person in front of them would hurt her. You don't need to be so nervous, Jiang Hao said. I'm here to protect her. I'm just luring you out to kill you all. How about you step aside so I can really kill her this time? Jiang Hao's words puzzled the Heavenly Saint sect's people. They couldn't understand what the person in front of them was thinking. At first, they thought the person wouldn't make a move, but his intimidating attitude scared them. They didn't dare act recklessly. Who are you exactly? Just tell us what you want. We'll try our best to give you whatever it is that you want, said the middle-aged man. I want the Holy Master's divine soul. Will you give it to me? Jiang Hao asked. You are impertinent. Do you think the Holy Master's divine soul is something you can touch? Asked the middle-aged man. Jiang Hao nodded. What's your name? Murong Yulei, the middle-aged man said. You say the Holy Master's divine soul is untouchable, right? Asked Jiang Hao. Of course, Murong Yulei said proudly. The Holy Master is omnipotent. How can the power of the heavens and earth allow you to desecrate him with your evil thoughts? Smiling San Sheng laughed. Well, just to prove you wrong, I can kill your Holy Master in front of you and gnaw at his divine soul, he said. No need to thank me. After all, I'm here to make you understand that the Holy Master is not as great as you think. Ignorant and arrogant as I am, I can still touch the Holy Master's divine soul. The Heavenly Saint sect's people were infuriated. Someone charged at Jiang Hao for insulting the Holy Master. Boom. The person wanted to inflict serious damage. Jiang Hao stood tall and unmoved. He watched everyone. His indestructible Vajra ability allowed him to withstand attacks. At that time, a ray of light flashed, and the Holy Master's divine soul reached the place. The people from the Heavenly Saint sect were overjoyed. Chapter 8:28. First comes the Holy Master, then the heavens. The spirit beast and Xiao Li noticed the changes outside the sect. The spirit herb garden was busy again. The soiree beast stood in the Estirit herb garden. MV friends might have soriad the word about what a great demon I am. They won't dare come here. For a moment, the people there felt safe. Cheng Cho was the same. However, the absence of Jiang Hao made him feel uneasy. If senior brother Jiang had been here, they all would have felt much safer. Xiao Li stood by the beast's side vigilantly. This was a place she often played in. This was the safest place. Suddenly, there was a sound outside. The spirit beast and Xiao Li walked out. When they walked a bit further, they were surrounded by people. It was two young men. Both were at the peak of the Golden Core realm. I didn't expect you to come out so quickly, said the dark-skinned man with a smile. Xiao Li looked puzzled. Who are you? Never mind who we are. Meeting us is your bad luck. We, from the Heavenly Saint sect, have come to take you away. You should be grateful, said another young man with stubble. Beast, aren't they your friends? Xiao Li asked the spirit beast. No, they are not. The spirit beast looked at the two men. If they're not my friend, then they're nothing. Ridiculous. We are from the Heavenly Saint sect, and we have a Holy Master, said the man with a stubble. Who is the Holy Master? Xiao Li asked. The Holy Master is the highest existence in heaven and earth. The world is formed by his divine thoughts. First comes the Holy Master, then comes heaven, said the man with a stubble. Do you know who the spirit beast is? Xiao Li asked. Who? The man with a stubble frowned. The beast stood in the air proudly. All friends know that I am the future great demon. If you say the Holy Master comes first, I might get angry. You insolent beast. Ridiculous. The two men were furious and attacked them. Xiao Li clenched her fists angrily. You are the ones talking nonsense. After a while, Cheng Cho ran out of the garden. Xiao Li looked confused. Why did they run away as soon as I made a move? The beast said, it's because they fear my friends. I just received news that people from the Heavenly Saint sect have attacked, Cheng Cho said. The Holy Master is not as good as the beast, Xiao Li said seriously. The Holy Master is not as good as that beast. A disciple of the Heavenly Note sect passing by overheard them. He was a bit surprised. Is that true? I'll have to ask. Was the beast that influential? Jiang Kao stood still and waited patiently. He had made enough preparations. If he couldn't handle it, he would use the yin-yang bracelet to trap them and take them away. Then, he would alert his master. If he could handle it, then he would solve the problem as soon as possible. There was also the person hiding. The light became brighter, and Miao Tinglian shimmered. There was a mark on her forehead. That mark was imprinted in her soul. If the Holy Master descended, the consequences would be inevitable. Mu Qi wanted to do something, but he found that it far exceeded his capabilities. The only thing he could do was to seek help from his master. Don't worry. I am protecting you, aren't I? Jiang Kao chuckled softly. But who would dare to believe that? They couldn't understand this person at all. Mu Qi bowed respectfully and hoped that this person could really save Miao Tinglian. The light was golden. But it wasn't easy to sense. They were close, so they could see it. At that moment, Murong Yulei looked at her fanatically. They could feel that the Holy Master was approaching. Jiang Kao frowned. The golden light was powerful. It was extraordinary. He felt that he might not be able to face it head-on. He had to be prepared to escape. Ha ha ha, you ignorant madman, now that the Holy Master is descending, you can't escape even if you want to. Murong Yulei laughed maniacally. Jiang Kao turned and looked at him. My name is Smiling San Sheng. You can call me that. Smiling San Sheng, you're dead, said Murong Yulei. At that moment, the light appeared closer, and they were too late to stop it. Miao Tinglian fainted, and the mark resonated with the terrifying existence. Then, with a bang, a golden light struck down. It's here. Jiang Kao felt both excited and worried. Perhaps it was because he pretended to be Smiling San Sheng, he wanted to encounter a strong opponent and test out his new ability. He wanted to feel the power of the Immortal Ascension platform. The golden light rushed toward Miao Tinglian. Boom! When the golden light was about to reach her, a shield materialized and blocked it. The golden light was repelled, and Jiang Kao appeared in front of Mu Qi with a smile. I told you I came to protect them, didn't I? He looked at the golden light, took a step forward, and used the second form of the heavenly blade, mountain suppression. There was an explosion. Jiang Kao activated the heavenly cauldron. Instantly, the divine ability surrounded the area. Then, a palm struck toward Mu Qi and Miao Tinglian. The yin-yang bracelet was reversed. The golden light tried to chase them as they left, but Jiang Kao set it in formation again. There was no way out or in. The golden light collided in the void and bounced back. Jiang Kao sighed in relief. Now, no one could leave. He didn't know if the person in the dark sensed what had happened. That didn't matter much. He didn't care. Senior brother Mu Qi and senior sister Miao might be targeted in the future. However, he was doing all he could. It was dangerous for them to be under the gaze of the Holy Master. Jiang Kao sensed anger from the divine soul. Can't get out? Jiang Kao asked. Why are you defying me? Asked a voice from the nothingness. It was unclear whether it was a man's voice or a woman's. At that point, the divine soul slowly transformed into a man with long hair. He looked quite handsome, but he stared at Jiang Kao furiously. The Holy Master, Murong Yulei and others were prostrated on the ground. The Holy Master looked at Jiang Kao. A mere Immortal Ascension platform cultivator? Jiang Kao grinned. At least I'm not sealed like a rabid animal. Also, my divine soul isn't coveted like an object. Insolent fool, shouted the Holy Master. The primordial spirit spread, and the long knife in Jiang Kao's hand transformed into a heavenly blade. He resisted it. He had encountered such a strong opponent for the first time since his advancement. Then, he vanished and merged with the light. When he disappeared, the Holy Master looked to the side and struck out his palm. Boom! Jiang Kao's blade collided with it. Then, he disappeared again and swung the blade from another side. The Holy Master sneered. His powerful aura swept through. Is that all you got? Asked the Holy Master. Jiang Kao stood firm. He was excited. He activated the reappearance of the hidden spirit. Chapter 829. Smiling San Sheng, invincible Jiang Hao felt an unprecedented power when the ability took effect. He took a step forward and swung the heavenly blade. Moonlight flashed. He used the first form of the heavenly blade, moon-slaying. Jiang Hao flashed past like a beam of moonlight. The Holy Master sneered. His long hair swayed in the wind and a halberd appeared in his hand. He swung the halberd. It shook the mountains and rivers. Jiang Hao felt that the entire heavenly cauldron would be shattered. But there was no escape. Clang! The blade and halberd clashed, and sparks flew. Two figures moved at an impossible speed in the air. The blade swept at everything, and the halberd swung as though it would shatter everything in sight. Cracks appeared in the heavenly cauldron, but it quickly recovered. Golden light shone in all directions, and Jiang Hao's heavenly blade swept in a straight line. Boom! With a bang, the two retreated into the air. Jiang Hao took a few steps back, and the Holy Master was also flung back a little. Jiang Hao's clothes were torn at the front. The halberd had struck him there, but the indestructible Vajra had absorbed most of the impact. Jiang Hao touched his torn clothes and smiled. His aura surged, and he hefted the heavenly blade once again. It's no wonder you are so arrogant. It seems you have the means to be that way. Unfortunately, you've revealed too much already. What a pity. This was just getting interesting. The Holy Master erupted with endless divine power. He wanted to crush Jiang Hao. The divine soul pressed down like a towering mountain and hindered his steps. You've come a long way, but you're done for now. There's no need to struggle further. Just stay here and let go. Rest. Jiang Hao felt the gentle and kind words at the core of his being. It was like gentle music surrounding him and putting him to sleep. The only thing he had to do was let go and rest. He was tired. Everything would be taken care of. There was a mark on Jiang Hao's eyebrows. It opened like a third eye. His divine abilities protected him. Jiang Hao stepped forward. His eyes shone brilliantly. He lifted the heavenly blade. He overcame the fog in his mind. Overcoming mountains and crossing rivers, never changing, always move forward, the heavenly blade swung. The road is high, the journey is far, but the scenery is striking. At that moment, he stood high up and looked down at the Holy Master. The heavenly blade swung again. The second form of the heavenly blade, mountain suppression, suppressed the divine soul's might. The blade and halberd clashed, and the aftermath swept through the surroundings. The Holy Master frowned. His appearance began to change. He seemed to transform into a woman. At that moment, a chilly power erupted from the core. The divine soul surged and swept through the surroundings. Boom! The heavenly cauldron was blasted open, and Jiang Hao was knocked back by impact. He crashed into the wall created by the yin-yang bracelet. The impact injured him. It had been a long time since he had been injured like this. However, for some reason, he didn't feel any fear. He gripped his blade. His aura burned. At that moment, the Holy Master stood in midair. She was a formidable woman now. She looked at Jiang Hao with a frown. The divine soul began to wreak havoc in the surroundings. It wouldn't take long for everything to be destroyed. "You've forced my hand. You must die," said the Holy Master. Jiang Hao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked at the sky and grinned. "Are you sure you can kill alone? You insolent brat." The storm surged. The divine soul crushed everything around. Instead of retreating, Jiang Hao advanced forward. His spirit and energy rose. Purple energy appeared around him, and his strength surged. He rose into the air and charged toward the divine soul. "You have a death wish. You dare to charge at me," said the Holy Master. Smiling San Sheng laughed. He had no fear in his eyes. "Even if there is a violent wind sweeping the earth, I will ride the wind and break through it." The fifth form of heavenly blade, inquiry. The heavenly blade resonated. In an instant, the blade slashed at the surging storm of power. The Holy Master laughed. "You think you can stop me with that? You arrogant brat. You have a death wish." Jiang Hao's eyes were filled with madness. A wild smile played on his lips. You are just the lingering twilight, while I am like the rising sun. I have no limits or restrictions like you. But I don't believe I can just cut you down, of course. At that moment, the clash between the blade and the divine soul swept through everything. Invisible forces shattered everything. If either the blade or the storm retreated, it would lead to irreversible consequences. Jiang Hao's mind was covered with illusions. It affected everyone. The future was promising, and he firmly believed he could reach his potential. The blade was beginning to bombard his divine soul. The 9 heavens battle armor blocked the storm. The immortal mountain sea shield protected the surroundings. The awe-inspiring divine ability suppressed everything. Purple energy circulated. The revival of withered tree started healing him. Jiang Hao tightened his grip on the heavenly blade. He took a step forward. The imprint of mountains and seas gathered and merged into the heavenly blade. How could I, smiling San Sheng, possibly be defeated? Such arrogance made even the Holy Master feel shaken. Who exactly was this person? How was he so confident? And why did he exude such a terrifying aura? Jiang Hao slashed down. The world changed color as if it was going to split heaven and earth. The storm dissipated, and the Holy Master felt wary. If only she had been able to take over a body, this person would be dead already. At that moment, the storm disintegrated, and the Holy Master's divine soul was slashed into 2. Jiang Hao stood in midair. He felt weak. The sword's intent dissipated. At that moment, he looked down. At the high mountain's summit, one can see the great river surging. Above the group of mountains, one feels the vast and mighty long wind. He slowly descended in front of Murong Yulei with a smile on his face. What do you think? Did I keep my promise? I told you. The Holy Master is nothing special. As long as there's a blade, anyone can be killed. Murong Yulei stared at smiling San Sheng in shock and anger. Smiling San Sheng had killed the Holy Master, and he was still being smug about it. Everyone was rendered speechless. Seeing your faces, it seems you agree with me, said the blade rose and fell. Jiang Hao felt exhausted but still had some reserve of power for one last strike. He was waiting for the hidden attacker to come out. Unfortunately, the attacker never appeared. If this continued, he wouldn't be able to endure it. He could do what he could and escape. Meanwhile, the black-robed man hiding in the dark sensed smiling Sansheng's weakness. He wanted to launch a sneak attack. However, he remained motionless. A red figure appeared. Don't you find that strange? Is he pretending or is he truly like this? Asked a crisp voice. Chapter 830. Gift from the Demoness. The person in the black robe was delighted when he saw Jiang Hao. It felt like finding something after looking for it for a long time. He had set up various traps. With such preparations, he felt it was likely for him to chase after the other person. He was full of anticipation for the confrontation. These people ending up dead was the best outcome he could hope for. But even if they were gravely injured, that was fine. Both sides suffering because of the Holy Master would be even better. However, after the Holy Master appeared, he was surprised. It made him worried. Smiling San Sheng hadn't disappeared, but he had helped the Saintess escape. Only then did he realize that it was impossible to escape this place. When he tried to send a message to the 2 outside, he found out that communication with the outside world was abruptly cut off. Nothing worked. But he wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he continued to hide in the shadows. If he wasn't discovered, there wouldn't be a problem. Smiling San Sheng fought with the Holy Master and seemed to be at a disadvantage. That was a good thing, and it was beneficial enough for him. Soon, he found that smiling San Sheng was a bit strange. He became more courageous in the fight, and his abilities were extraordinary. His strength and spiritual energy were unimaginable, and he confronted the Holy Master's divine soul head-on. In the end, he killed the opponent in a way that he couldn't understand. However, after that blow, smiling San Sheng was already at the end of the rope. If he made one move, it could kill him instantly. Killing smiling San Sheng would also mean obtaining the Holy Master's divine soul. He was excited. That was what he wanted to see the most. However, when he was about to take action, it seemed like something was pressing down on him. It was all around. How do you perceive the current? Asked Hong Yuye. The man in the black robe said in horror, Senior, I can't fathom the nature of such a person. I was just passing by. I don't want to be trapped. Please, Senior, show mercy. The man's leg shattered. I hate people who lie and evade my questions. The man in the black robe screamed in pain. Smiling San Sheng acts recklessly. He had madness in his eyes. He is unpredictable. A madman. A madman? Hong Yuye nodded. Then, a red force swept over the man. In an instant, the man in the black robe turned to ashes. At that moment, Hong Yuye saw Jiang Hao turning his head to look at them. A chilling intent swept over them. As soon as their eyes met, the intent disappeared. Jiang Hao was waiting for the hidden person to show himself, but he had never expected Hong Yuye to appear. The intent dissipated, and the aura also disappeared. You seem to have become bolder. Hong Yuye wore a red and white dress. She walked to Jiang Hao. Senior, you must be joking. I didn't know you were here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even dared to act recklessly. Jiang Hao bowed respectfully. Do you like pretending to be smiling San Sheng? Hong Yuye asked coldly. Jiang Hao shook his head and quickly dispelled the effect of the Thousand Faces treasure fan. He stood in place in exhaustion. He was injured, so he couldn't move properly. He could lose control and end up unconscious if he wasn't careful. The Holy Master was indeed extraordinary. His own Tao was unable to sever the opponents. If it weren't for the numerous divine abilities and treasures on his body, he would have already died. He couldn't pretend to be smiling San Sheng anymore. It was dangerous. He had been lucky this time, but it might not be the same next time. Don't you want the Holy Master's divine soul? Hong Yuye sat down, and Jiang Hao made some tea. Jiang Hao first made tea and then activated the universe in a palm in his palm. For a moment, purple energy covered the surroundings, and the golden soul was enveloped in the purple energy. Finally, it turned into a bead and fell into Jiang Hao's hand. The golden light inside was the divine soul of the Holy Master. However, the divine soul had no consciousness. It was just an object. Just as he was about to examine it closely, the bead flew up and fell into Hong Yuye's hand. Jiang Hao could only sit across from her and drink tea. He had brewed September spring. After drinking, he immersed himself in cultivation. His injuries were gradually healing. The next day, when he woke up again, he saw Hong Yuye staring blankly at sunrise. Senior. Jiang Hao called softly. At that point, the sun had risen. Hong Yuye turned to look at him. Is your injury better? Thanks to you, Senior. Otherwise, I would be dead by now, said Jiang Hao gratefully. Hong Yuye chuckled. If you want to express your gratitude, you should brew more September spring. Yes, of course. Jiang Hao nodded. He still had plenty of spirit stones. He could afford it. Hong Yuye smiled. I remember you have a technique called the Mountain Sea Seal, right? I do have such a technique. Jiang Hao nodded. But it's just an ordinary technique, nothing very special. Hong Yuye didn't care whether Jiang Hao was telling the truth or not. Instead, she looked at the Holy Master's divine soul. Using the soul to nourish your technique can lead to a significant gain. You've done a lot for me, and I won't let you go unrewarded. She left a piece of paper on the table. Here is a method of absorption. You can try to absorb it. Once the absorption is complete, your strength will improve. Thank you, Senior, said Jiang Hao gratefully. He had wanted to find out how to absorb the divine soul, but now, he knew. The absorption shouldn't be too difficult. Hong Yuye chuckled. Jiang Hao was puzzled. He got up and put away the yin-yang bracelet. How is my flower? Hong Yuye asked on the way. It's growing, Jiang Hao said. Have you taken good care of it? I wouldn't dare to be negligent with your things, Senior. What about the thing I asked you to find out about? I've got some clues. I just need to verify them. What are you looking for? Hong Yuye asked. Sage's pages, Jiang Hao said. Hong Yuye chuckled. So, what clues did you find? Gentian Cliff in the west, said Jiang Hao. Gentian Cliff in the west. Hong Yuye was surprised. Are you sure? I still need to verify it. Jiang Hao shook his head. Then, do it fast. In a few days, we'll need to go out, Hong Yuye said. Jiang Hao was embarrassed but still nodded in agreement. He had thought about it, so it wasn't a surprise. However, he didn't know what the situation was in the west. The corpse hadn't awakened yet. It made him feel wary. Once it happened, someone would have to deal with it. He could then find out the location. Now, he could only rely on luck and information to avoid it. They returned to Jiang Hao's courtyard. Hong Yuye said she wanted to take a bath, so Jiang Hao had to prepare bathwater and wait outside. During that time, he looked at the absorption method. It stated that using spirit stones could shake the divine soul of the Holy Master and facilitate rapid absorption. Spirit stones. Chapter 831. She said the same thing 800 years ago. The information about spirit stones caught Jiang Hao by surprise. In the courtyard, he used a divine ability to appraise the Holy Master's divine soul. Holy Master's divine soul, part of the Holy Master's soul. It was born under the grand blessing of the mountains and seas. The Holy Master can assimilate various fortunes and transform them into the power of mountains and seas. You can use the Great Formation to split the divine soul, which will allow you to absorb it into the mountain sea seal. The process can be hastened by using spirit stones or spirit liquid. Jiang Hao furrowed his brows. The Great Formation? He didn't have such a thing. However, looking at what Hong Yuye left behind, he found that there was indeed such a formation. Was this the Great Formation? Hong Yuye had noted down the amount of spirit stones he would need and also the amount of spirit liquid that would be needed. But one bottle of spirit liquid cost 30 spirit stones. Jiang Hao chose to use spirit stones. He had plenty of them, so it should be enough. After that, he drew the formation in the courtyard. He placed the Holy Master's divine soul in the center and sat cross-legged on the floor. He activated the formation and then added the spirit stones. He put in one at first. The Holy Master's divine soul showed no reaction. Then, he added 10 more. There was no change. He then added 100. There was still no reaction. When he finally added 1,000, there was a slight change. He added another 10,000. Something like a mist appeared. The mountain sea seal activated, and the changes fused into his body. It nourished the seal. It worked. However, the change was too small right now. Jiang Hao gritted his teeth and threw in 100,000 spirit stones. Finally, he felt the overwhelming force rushing in like a stream. The mountain sea seal became more condensed. He had always sought to improve the mountain sea seal, and the changes were always so slight. However, this time, the changes were significant. If this continued, the power of the seal would be terrifying. It also had significant benefits for sealing. Jiang Hao was pleased. He felt excited to see how strong the seal would be. However, the effect suddenly stopped. Jiang Hao opened his eyes and saw that the 100,000 spirit stones had disappeared. He hesitated and threw in another 70,000 more. After that, the power returned, and an intense force surrounded him. The mountain sea seal released a formidable aura as it revolved in his palm. Every breath became stronger. He felt that he could confront the Holy Master much more easily with such a strong seal. Not long after, the surging force abruptly stopped. Jiang Hao looked at the Holy Master's divine soul. Not even 1/10 of it had been consumed. TCNT thy ton inner. This was all a total of 170,000 spirit stones had accomplished. I regret it. I should be more careful in the future. After some thought, he felt that using 170,000 spirit stones to buy high-grade spirit medicines would have yielded at least 20 or 30 blue bubbles. This was not worth it. As long as his cultivation improved, absorbing something like this wouldn't be a problem. For a moment, he felt sentimental. He should have taken the 50,000 spirit stones from senior brother Mu Qi. He checked the storage treasures he had snatched from the dead members of the Heavenly Saint sect, but he didn't find much. Did these people offer all their things to the Holy Master? Jiang Hao sighed. Finally, he took stock of how many spirit stones he had left. He only had 11,003 spirit stones. He couldn't even afford September-spring. Is it all gone? It's fortunate that I still have many treasures and pills from the corpse realm. Jiang Hao wasn't too worried. If he sold them while heading to the west, he could earn a lot of spirit stones. As for the Holy Master's divine soul, it was better to just leave it untouched. The matter with the Holy Master was temporarily solved. The only regret was that he hadn't gotten the time to appraise the one who was hidden. He speculated that they might be someone from the Great Thousand God sect. It might be Feng Hua. If they met, he could confirm it. Who would have expected that Hong Yuye would appear and disrupt his plan? However, the Great Thousand God sect's intentions were unclear. Why did they want to gather the Holy Master's divine soul? What were they planning? In any case, it had little to do with them. He had to deal with the end of all things first. The Saint bandits had gone quiet lately, and there was no need to pay too much attention to it. The fallen immortal clan was a bit troublesome. The end of all things was the real danger. In the west, Baizhu sat in the noodle shop. She had been here for a long time. In fact, she came here every day. But the people inside just wouldn't talk with her about her condition. They just said they were busy. Clearly, there wasn't much business going on in the shabby noodle shop. She noticed that those three people often came here. Their cultivation realms were always something different. Sometimes they appeared as Golden Core Realm cultivators, and other times as Primordial Spirit Realm cultivators. Occasionally, they even displayed Lifeblood Refinement Realm. Getting on their bad side wouldn't go down well. "What do you want to eat today?" said the young girl from before. She looked around 17 or 18 years of age. "Whatever you recommend," said Baizhu with a smile as she propped her chin on her hands. Qiao Yi sat quietly beside her. She felt that the people in this shop weren't as simple as they appeared to be. It seemed that none of the staff or the customers were ordinary people. She hadn't seen even one non-cultivator come in for a bowl of noodles. Even ordinary cultivators didn't venture in. "We've been here for several months. When will your boss come out?" Baizhu asked. "My boss is cooking noodles, so he usually doesn't come out here," said the waitress. "Your boss has to do everything himself. That must be difficult. How about this? I'm decent at cooking, so I can help him cook," said Baizhu. "How can we let a guest cook?" said the waitress and laughed. Baizhu shrugged. She had no choice but to wait. "Is the food that delicious here?" "I see you here every day," said one of the three usual seniors as they walked in. "I could ask the same question. If you weren't here every single day, you wouldn't have noticed us, senior," said Baizhu. She didn't dare to offend these three seniors. "We decided to go to the Mountain River Valley sect to take a look. We won't be coming here anymore. I heard there are astronomical books in the academy over there," said the middle-aged man with a smile. Baizhu immediately knew where Zhong was. She knew that Zhong had advanced. She had always been curious whether Zhong could survive her current predicament. She didn't plan to go meet her. Everyone in the gathering had an unspoken agreement to not compromise each other's identity. As for delivering the book, there were other ways to do it. The reason she hadn't delivered it yet was to do with Zhong's present condition. If Zhong failed, she would die. The book would have to be returned. "Here are your noodles," said the waitress as she set the bowls of noodles in front of Qiao Yi and Baizhu. She then turned to the three seniors. "What would you like to eat?" "We aren't here to eat today. We have some questions for your boss." "Will there be a big event in the back of the West?" asked the middle-aged man. "I'll go and ask," said the waitress and hurried away. After a while, she walked out of the kitchen. "The boss said that you will meet the person you're looking for soon enough." The middle-aged man chuckled. 800 years ago, she said the same thing. She is still here cooking her noodles and deceiving me with the same words. Do you think that's fair? Baizhu was speechless. She felt that the shopkeeper of the noodle shop was someone extraordinary. "The boss said this time it's the truth," said the waitress. 1600 years ago, she said the same thing, said the middle-aged man icily. Chapter 832, Demoness. Go by yourself. The siege from the Heavenly Saint sect started and ended pretty quickly. After losing the Holy Master, the group silently withdrew. They needed to figure out what had happened. However, when they found out, they were furious. Under the towering mountains, several people engaged in heated discussion. A young man slammed the table and stood up angrily. The Heavenly Note sect is too arrogant. How can they be so blasphemous? They have tainted the Holy Master's divine soul. Did you find out who did it? An old woman asked. No. We have no information at all. Meow Tinglian is still alive. She might know, but it's unlikely she'll tell us anything, said a middle-aged man. Try to contact her and make her reveal what she knows, said a young man furiously. Such traitors should be killed. If the Holy Master can't descend because we murdered the Saintess, will you take responsibility for it? Asked the old woman. The young man lowered his head and fell silent. Let's send someone to investigate and to keep an eye on the Great Thousand God sect. They are suspicious, said the old woman after a while. The group quieted down and formulated a plan. Contact Jiang Hao, too. See how much he knows, the middle-aged man said. Others nodded. They began to plan further. The Heavenly Saint sect withdrew. Jiang Hao noticed it when Hong Yuye left. Yesterday, after Hong Yuye took a bath and slept, she disappeared from his balcony. He breathed a sigh of relief. He still had injuries to deal with, and it would take some time for him to recover to his peak. He also needed to prepare to head west. He had to understand the situation and decide what identity to use. Should he go as himself or as Smiling San Sheng? Or was it better to use Jiyu Jin's identity? Each option had its own advantages and disadvantages. Smiling San Sheng was a member of the End of All Things, so he could contact the End of All Things if needed. Jiyu Jin could contact the Astronomical Academy. As long as he didn't cause trouble, it would be fine. But it wasn't easy to get things done sometimes, and he didn't know how much danger the End of All Things would put him in. It was fine to use any identity as long as no one knew that Smiling San Sheng and Jiyu Jin were the same person. That was the risk involved. If that happened, it would be troublesome. Both those identities could be compromised. Jiang Hao sighed and headed to the Spirit Herb Garden. He heard from Xiao Li that someone had caused trouble here too. Later, the enemies had fled when they faced the Spirit Beast. They even claimed that the Holy Master was more powerful than the Spirit Beast. Jiang Hao didn't take that seriously until half a month later when he found out that some people from the Heavenly Saint sect were still eyeing the Spirit Herb Garden. After asking around, he found out that the angry Heavenly Saint sect members were offended because the Spirit Beast had claimed that it was more powerful and important than the Holy Master. One sentence had provoked them. The Holy Master couldn't compare to Lord Jiang Hao was stunned. Did Xiao Li say that? He frowned. Indeed, it would have been better to let it go. He now had to be extra vigilant around the Spirit Herb Garden because of just one sentence. He didn't know what the fanatic disciples of the Heavenly Saint sect might do. He called the Spirit Beast and asked about the situation. They said that the Holy Master comes first, then the heavens. I could only tell them the truth. I, Lord Beast, come before the Holy Master. They seemed to believe it, said the Beast. Jiang Hao sighed wearily. If it was someone else, he wouldn't have cared. But the members of the Heavenly Saint sects were fanatics. He had to be careful. Hopefully, there won't be too many powerful fanatics appearing anytime soon. Otherwise, the Spirit Beast and Xiao Li would be in serious trouble. Xiao Li had the Dragon Pearl, so she might be able to handle them. However, he was concerned about the rumors of other dragons. The Clear Sky School and the Abyssal Sea both had traces of real dragons. Jiang Hao didn't think too much about it. He also found out that Meow Tinglian was safe. They didn't mention the incident at all. Everyone acted as though nothing had happened. However, people from the Heavenly Saint sect would likely focus on them. Fortunately, due to the sudden attack, the sect became much more strict than before. The Law Enforcement Hall often took action to kill their enemies. According to Liu Xingchen, the sect found many Heavenly Saint sect spies and was now hunting them down. I also heard that the Holy Master's divine soul was killed within the Cliff of Broken Hearts, he said with a smile. What do you think about that, junior brother Jiang? It must be the sect's doing, Jiang Hao said. Liu Xingchen just smiled. Many people in the law enforcement hall think so too. Out of curiosity, we investigated a bit, but we found nothing. What a pity. Jiang Hao could only express his regret. Liu Xingchen's current condition was stable. He was refining his cultivation. The speed of his progress was incredibly fast. Jiang Hao admired him. When he first saw him, he was in the Golden Core realm, and now, he had reached the Soul Ascension realm in just over 10 years. The speed of progress was unimaginable. After that, he went to the task hall. Junior brother Jiang, are you planning on going out? Asked the senior sister at the reception. Are there any missions I can take? Jiang Hao asked. Yes. I've saved some that are suitable for you, she said. She handed him a few of the available tasks. Junior brother, you can choose from these. The first task was to find a traitor in the Golden Core realm. The second was to recruit a disciple who was targeted by the Heavenly Gate sect. The third task was to visit a city where he needed to find some of the forces affiliated with the sect. All of them had a 3-month deadline. Failure to complete the task would cost him 3,500 spirit stones. WHV2, 500, asked Tiang Hao. Because your cultivation realm is high, so the risk we bear is also higher, said the senior sister. Jiang Hao nodded. With higher cultivation, it was easier for a disciple to escape. The law enforcement hall had to bear the responsibility for it ultimately. It would be difficult and unrewarding to capture someone with a higher cultivation realm. Jiang Hao didn't rush to accept a mission. He wanted to wait for a while and think about it properly. Although his injuries were almost healed, he hadn't reached the peak yet. In the past few days, he had made some talismans and set up a stall again. There was no other choice. He had run out of spirit stones. If he went to the west without spirit stones, he would run into trouble. As for the Holy Master's divine soul, he was still absorbing it, but the absorption rate was too slow and required a long time. He had tried using spiritual energy to stimulate it, which had a slight effect, but it made too much noise. It wasn't until July that Jiang Hao felt his state had reached its peak. Hong Yuye appeared in his courtyard. Senior, greetings. Jiang Hao bowed. We leave tomorrow, said Hong Yuye calmly while looking at the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. Jiang Hao nodded. How do you plan to go there? Hong Yuye asked. I can go there instantly, Jiang Hao said. Guan Zhongfei had activated the golden ring, so he could teleport there. Tomorrow at noon, then. You can set off on your own, she said. Jiang Hao was surprised. Am I going alone? That would be even more dangerous. Chapter 833, When we meet again, I'll defeat you, senior brother. After instructing him, Hong Yuye disappeared. She was satisfied with the heavenly fragrance Dao flower, and she didn't ask further. As long as Jiang Hao was in the courtyard, he would channel his purple energy and nourish the spirit herbs. When he left, he would leave the task of watering the plant to the spirit beast. Fortunately, being gone for a while wouldn't have much impact. He could continue to take care of the flower after he returned. As for Hong Yuye not accompanying him on the trip, it would be dangerous without her, but he would have more freedom. After that, he went to find Cheng Chou. The outer sect's spirit herb garden was finally fine, and Cheng Chou wasn't very busy. After more than a decade, the outer sect's spirit herb garden had finally returned to normal. We just need to send some people over, and the people from the Candlelight Pill Pavilion will oversee it, Cheng Chou said. Any issues with your cultivation? Jiang Hao asked. Cheng Chou was already in his 40s. He was still diligently laying the foundation, which would aid in breaking through to the later stages of his cultivation realm. Jiang Hao often explained cultivation matters to him. After that, Cheng Chou raised some more questions, and Jiang Hao explained them more deeply. The more he advanced, the better he understood the realms. When reviewing his own cultivation realm, he opened his mind to clarity. The more he comprehended, the better he could understand. He also understood more about his own strength. The nameless manual mainly focused on control, so his understanding became deeper. Cheng Cho had average talent. If it were someone else, they would have already advanced to the later realms. However, he made progress, and his foundation was solid. One advantage Cheng Cho had was Jiang Hao's guidance. He could progress steadily. He knew his talent was average, so he dared not be impatient. Only by taking it one step at a time could there be hope for advancement. Perhaps he could attempt to break through to the Golden Core realm in a few decades. There was great hope within 100 years. After helping Cheng Cho, he found the spirit beast and Xiao Li. He instructed them to keep a close eye on the spirit herb garden. The people from the Heavenly Saint sect had been cleared out, and the sect was also conducting strict inspections, so there should be peace for some time. Junior brother Jiang, Sister Miao walked over to him with a smile. She had returned to normal. There were no issues with her cultivation either. Jiang Hao politely greeted her. My health has improved lately, so I visited other branches. Can you guess what I saw? Miao Tinglian said mysteriously. What? Jiang Hao asked. Take a look. It's quite astonishing. Miao Tinglian took out a scroll. Open and see. Jiang Hao opened the scroll carefully. He saw a portrait of a beautiful and elegant woman. She had delicate features and innocent eyes. Beautiful, right? And she is very obedient and nice. Although her talent was a bit lacking, she actually is very gifted. She's a good match for you. As long as you agree, I'll help you, Miao Tinglian said triumphantly. Jiang Hao was speechless. Do you have nothing to do all day? Jiang Hao felt that it had been more peaceful when she was ill. He sighed and shook his head. Thank you so much, Senior Sister Miao, for your kind intentions, but I am just going to focus on my cultivation. Miao Tinglian nodded. Do you like feisty ones instead? I agree that innocence can be boring. I guess you would like it if she looked demure but was feisty secretly. She could then fulfill all your fantasies. Jiang Hao immediately looked around and found senior brother Mu Qi. He walked straight toward him. He hoped Mu Qi would take her away. For a moment, he felt like senior sister Miao was repaying his kindness with hostility. He could have been swayed by her persuasion if he was a usual cultivator. But it was impossible for him to even think about it. The next day, Jiang Hao went to the task hall to accept the task of recruiting the disciple. When he returned to the Cliff of Broken Hearts, he saw Han Ming. It seemed he was just coming out of seclusion. Jiang Hao felt a sword's intent from him. It was there before, but it wasn't as sharp. Moreover, he was not far from the middle stage of the Golden Core realm, which surprised him. Junior brother Han was indeed talented. To be so near the middle stage of the Golden Core realm at just 37 was truly remarkable. Han Ming, who had been somewhat naive in the past, now had a restrained brilliance, and the sword intent circulated around him. He had become much more mature. Junior brother Han, are you here to find me? Jiang Hao asked. I want to challenge you, senior brother Jiang. I am confident this time I can give you a good fight, Han Ming said confidently. Jiang Hao smiled. All right. The usual place. After that, the two went to an open meadow near Jiang Hao's courtyard. At that moment, Han Ming released his sword intent, and thunder roared around him. A powerful and chilling sword intent swept in all directions. Senior brother Jiang, be careful. Han Ming disappeared. Junior brother Han turned into a sword intent. It was astonishing. The half-moon blade appeared in Jiang Hao's hands. His blade's intent manifested, and the demonic sound slash resonated. Clang. Jiang Hao stood still, while Han Ming's sword fell to the ground. Junior brother Han, you are truly outstanding, Jiang Hao said as he turned around. Han Ming lowered his head, picked up his sword, bowed, and left. I now understand your strength, senior brother Jiang. The next time we meet will be the day I defeat you. You can carry on hiding in the spirit herb garden till then, said Han Ming. Jiang Hao smiled softly. He knew that Han Ming was sulking. Shaking his head, he returned to the courtyard and checked the golden rings. After that, he disappeared from the spot. It was July right now. He had to return to the sect by October. In the western region, in the divine rotation sect, a figure appeared in the cave. Jiang Hao arrived and began to observe his surroundings. It was a secret chamber with a simple cultivation platform on the ground and nothing else. With a wave of his hand, the golden ring flew up from the ground and returned to his wrist. Guan Zhongfei was a disciple of the divine rotation sect, and this place seemed isolated. It was most likely an inner area of the sect. Jiang Hao planned to go outside. It would be even better if he could meet Guan Zhongfei and retract the mountain sea seal. He could then let Guan Zhongfei know that the matter was resolved. However, as he was about to leave the secret chamber, he suddenly felt a warmth in his chest. Something in his chest burned slowly. When it burned completely, a red figure appeared beside him. It was Hong Yuye. Jiang Hao was surprised. "Senior, I thought you weren't coming." "Not coming." Hong Yuye looked at Jiang Hao icily. "What did I say to make you think that?" Jiang Hao was puzzled. He thought about it and realized that she had never said she wasn't coming. He had misunderstood. "You think I shouldn't have come?" Hong Yuye's eyes were icy. "No. I was just a bit surprised. I really hoped you would come, senior," said Jiang Hao. Hong Yuye chuckled and walked toward the exit. Jiang Hao followed. Hong Yuye's arrival put a stop to some of his plans, but it also made things safer. Powerful individuals could be unpredictable. Chapter 834, Demoness. Fear a mere golden core realm cultivator. Among the mountains, there were numerous caves. The mountain was covered with steep and rugged cliffs. At that moment, a red figure emerged, followed by a man. They stood on the edge of a cliff, overlooking the rushing river below. "This place is nice," said Hong Yuye as she looked down. Jiang Hao nodded in agreement. Having spent many years by the Cliff of Broken Hearts, he found the cliffs beautiful. The people from the Divine Rotation sect sure knew how to pick their locations. They had built many cave dwellings here. However, he didn't think he would like to live here. Without an open courtyard, it was challenging to cultivate spiritual herbs unless there was an open area nearby. There should be one, but he still didn't like it here. Perhaps it was beautiful, but it didn't suit him. Hong Yuye stood in place for a long time, which surprised Jiang Hao. He didn't understand what she had in mind. When he looked over at her, he found that she was also looking at him. He understood. As always, everything was up to him from here on out. So where should he go? Logically, he should head to Gentian Cliff. But he was uncertain of where it was. He needed to ask around and find out where Sea Sky Forest was. For now, it would be better to avoid that place. After that, he flew down to the river's surface. He followed the river outward. He didn't know how to get out. He could only choose to fly close to the water surface on his sword. Flying too high would attract too much attention. "What's your cultivation realm?" Hong Yuye suddenly asked. Almost at the late stage of the Golden Core realm, Jiang Hao said. "You're already at the Golden Core realm? Flying boldly in the sky like this, won't people suspect that you aren't from here?" asked Hong Yuye. Jiang Hao thought about it and realized that it made sense. As long as he stayed away from forbidden areas, no one would suspect him. If he appeared more open and confident, the less suspicious others would be. Flying down like this was definitely not a good idea. He needed to find a place to ask around. After that, Jiang Hao changed direction and headed toward a place where there were some people. He looked at their attire. If they couldn't find a sect uniform, he would have to use the Thousand Faces treasure fan. Fortunately, it wasn't necessary. After a short while, he saw a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator and walked over to them. The man looked to be in his early 20s. He looked like an ordinary and honest person, with a faint spiritual aura surrounding him. He seemed quite talented. "Hello, junior brother," said Jiang Hao as he approached him and let his golden core aura spread around him. The young man bowed his head respectfully. "Greetings, seniors. We've been in seclusion for too long and forgot the way out. Can you show us the way, junior brother?" Jiang Hao said calmly. The man was a bit puzzled but dared not ask further. He quickly said, "I'll lead the way for you, seniors. Please follow me." Then, The three of them flew on their swords. Along the way, they met some seniors, and the young man occasionally stopped to greet them. Jiang Hao followed suit. With someone leading the way, no one would ask them why they were there. No one would pay attention to them. Even some seniors didn't give them more than a passing glance. However, halfway through, a group of people suddenly blocked their way. Jiang Hao thought he had been discovered, but these people looked at the young man leading them. "Mo Jian, this time you can't escape. You dared to snatch our things. Do you have a death wish?" said a furious young man. At that moment, a golden core realm cultivator walked out of the group. He glanced at Jiang Hao. "Middle stage golden core realm junior? I suggest you don't meddle in our affairs." He walked toward Mo Jian. Mo Jian looked at Jiang Hao and hesitated for a moment. He then handed him a jade slip. "Senior brother, if you want it, I can give it to you." Jiang Hao glanced briefly at it and found that it contained a method for refining the body. It was called the Ancient Sea of Stars Body Technique. The name itself sounded profound. Jiang Hao felt that many things were happening in these sects. Stealing someone's stuff was common in sects. The others glanced at him as if to tell him to hand it back. Jiang Hao lowered his head. Then, he released his primordial spirit realm aura. Before they could speak, he suppressed everyone. The people were frightened. Jiang Hao looked at Mo Jian. "Continue leading the way." The latter was terrified. He never expected that this senior would be so formidable. After a while, Jiang Hao successfully left the Divine Rotation sect. "Senior brother, this is the place," Mo Jian said respectfully. Jiang Hao returned the jade slip to him. "If fate allows, we'll meet again." Then, he and Hong Yuye flew away on their swords. Mo Jian was confused and grateful. He no longer had to deal with trouble because, in the eyes of others, the senior had taken the jade slip. It was unlikely those people would seek revenge. The senior was too powerful. It was beyond their capability to provoke him. On the western edge of the sea, an old man walked along the road and looked ahead nostalgically. "It's been many years since I've been here. I never thought I would come here for this purpose." "Greetings, senior." A man and a woman appeared in the distance. Both had reached the Immortal Ascension platform. They were the ones assigned to guide the old senior. The information given by the End of All Things is very accurate. "You came as soon as I set foot on land," said the old man with a smile. "You jest, senior. It's not that we have accurate information. It's just that there are many people among us. We didn't know about your arrival. We are stationed on various coastlines, so we could see you and are willing to help you," said the young man. The old man laughed. "Your words saved your lives." The two breathed a sigh of relief. "Your cultivation is not bad. Will you serve as my followers?" "Would that be too much for you?" the old man asked. "It would be our honor," both of them said. The old man walked forward. "I will only help you attract the waters of the Corpse Sea. I won't interfere in anything else." "Yes. That'll be enough for us," the man said. The old man walked slowly, but he covered the distance surprisingly fast. It was a bit difficult for the two people who followed him. If it were someone with a weaker cultivation realm, they would have lost track of him long ago. Suddenly, the old man asked, "Do outsiders know about your plan?" "They don't, and those who do would never spread the information." "So, nothing will come in your way, senior," said the young man. "Is that so?" The old man chuckled. "I heard that many members of the End of All Things have banded together to seize the sage's pages. There is indeed such a rumor, but our main focus is on the corpse. We know very little about the pages. If you want to know more, we can ask around for you, senior," the young man said. The old man didn't say anything. He was in deep thought. "Do you know anyone from among the people who went to the corpse realm to see me?" "We know a few, especially Smiling San Sheng. The one who got to ask you 10 questions. We're familiar with him," said the young man. "Is he also in the West?" "We don't have information about him right now, but if the sage's pages have appeared here, he'll come too. I'd like to meet him again." Chapter 835, Demoness. Do you want to try the power of the one heart palm? The southern region, inside an inn, Shangguan Qingsu looked at the envelope in her hand and felt surprised. Feng Hua went to hunt and kill the incarnation of the Holy Master's divine soul, but he died. The Divine Master's divine soul was obtained by someone else. She was puzzled. Not only did she fail to obtain the Holy Master's divine soul, but she also unexpectedly encountered Feng Hua's avatar. Moreover, they had no idea who did it, and even the Heavenly Saint sect was unaware of what had happened. If the Holy Master's divine soul was missing, it seems that those above will take some action. Shangguan Qingsu sighed. That means many powerful individuals would be coming to the south. I just left, and now, I have to run again. Feng Hua must be concerned too. Most of the people from the Great Thousand God sect took on tasks from others and worked in various places. However, the Great Thousand God sect sometimes handled its own affairs. This included collecting the Holy Master's divine soul and observing them. Wherever there was a fragment of the Holy Master's divine soul, people from the Great Thousand God sect would usually be there. She didn't know the exact situation, but the disappearance of the divine soul was a first-time occurrence. In the past, they would have some information about it. This time, everything was unclear. However, with extra saintesses present, they could still find it. I wonder where Smiling San Sheng is. Shangguan Qingsu sighed. She had been searching for him in the south for a long time, but there was still no news of him. But there was news of him appearing at the place where the Holy Master had appeared. I'll go to the Black Heaven sect first. She knew that the Thousand Faces treasure fan had been in the Black Heaven sect, so she could go there to ask. Her main purpose this time was to find Smiling San Sheng. Since the last time the curse had manifested, it hadn't hurt much. However, she lived in constant fear of it. In the west, Jiang Hao flew for a long time before he saw a city. He bought a map. The Sea-Sky Forest was approximately in the west, and he was currently in the southern area of the western region. He was closer to the Astronomical Academy. Although there might be many powerful people there was an advantage. He could sell the items he had on him. With many powerful people there, the market would be booming to serve them. Some people might be looking for a powerful treasure. Although the danger was inevitable, he still had to try. Jiang Hao felt that it might be relatively safe there. However, it might also bring unnecessary troubles. After some hesitation, he decided to go to a city near the Astronomical Academy. There was also an ancient city there, mostly inhabited by ordinary people. He could go there when he had time. It was said that there were holy sage statues in the city. These statues were extraordinary and possessed the power to pierce the heavens and the earth. However, no one had ever seen them with their own eyes. Jiang Hao wanted to explore the place. Senior, have you heard of the ancient city? It is said that there are many ancient things inside. Do you want to take a look? Hong Yuye asked softly. I have never been to the west before. I am a bit curious about some wonders in the west, Jiang Hao said. Hong Yuye chuckled. Your curiosity will get you in trouble. The more I know, the better I can help you with your tasks, senior, said Jiang Hao. Hong Yuye looked ahead. Jiang Hao flew on his sword using the light and dust technique. Their figures seemed to disappear under the sun and advanced at an impossible speed. Several days later, Jiang Hao and Hong Yuye finally stepped into a large city. They felt a vast and boundless aura, like an endless ocean, suppressing them. It was difficult even to move. What is this thing? Jiang Hao looked up in amazement. The vast array, Hong Yuye said. Jiang Hao nodded. Such an array made it difficult for him to resist the effect. This city was indeed not simple. The vast and boundless aura immobilized him. However, it shouldn't be easy for the vast array to target only him. Moreover, if he wanted to leave, he could. He had buried the golden ring in an isolated place. If needed, he could activate it and escape. The first thing to do after entering the city was to find an inn for Hong Yuye. After that, he could go and explore. He found an ordinary inn and spent spirit stones to book 2 rooms adjacent to each other. Senior, the tea is ready. Jiang Hao placed the teapot aside. Hong Yuye nodded and waved at him. Jiang Hao felt uneasy but dared not approach her. When he cautiously walked to her, she placed her hand on his chest. He felt a slight burn. When she took her hand away, he saw an imprint on his chest. It was an imprint of the one heart palm. Hong Yuye finally sat down. Have you tried to study the one heart palm? I have little understanding of it, he said. In fact, he should have studied it a long time ago. However, he had no one to test it on. He didn't dare to test it out on Hong Yuye. The palm technique didn't work on other objects or things. Do you want to try it? Hong Yuye suddenly asked. Jiang Hao lowered his head in fear. He was afraid to answer. He did want to try it to understand how it worked or if he could do it. However, whenever he thought he had to leave an imprint on the other person's chest, his heart raced. All kinds of things popped up in his head, so he stopped thinking about it entirely. He couldn't use the one heart palm freely. ATT are all, Tneen place near any NAD to leave Tneen impermt sounded very intimate. Even if Hong Yuye allowed it, he didn't think he could do it. Go and ask around for the ancient pages, said Hong Yuye. Jiang Hao left the room. It was his first time in the West, and he didn't know whom to ask. But every place had a common goal. With enough spirit stones, he could get any information. This was a city of cultivators. He found a treasure pavilion. Judging from its scale, it was one of the best in the city. Jiang Hao entered and asked the woman at the reception if they bought treasures. She glanced at Jiang Hao. Friend, what do you want to sell? Jiang Hao took out a Soul Ascension Realm treasure. The woman glanced at it. She appeared a little surprised. Please follow me, she said. Jiang Hao followed her inside. He felt that the city was very posh. A treasure at the Soul Ascension Realm didn't seem to raise eyebrows. Even return to Void Realm was considered just normal, while Immortal Ascension Platform was a little special. Jiang Hao saw a middle-aged man on the third floor. The woman whispered a few words to him and then left. Jiang Hao waited for a while before he was offered a seat. Friend, are you here to sell treasures? Can I take a look? Asked the middle-aged man. Jiang Hao nodded and took out a Soul Ascension Realm spirit sword. The middle-aged man looked at the spirit sword and frowned. May I ask how you obtained the Divine Rotation Sect's frozen spirit sword? I just picked it up somewhere, said Jiang Hao with a friendly smile. Chapter 836, Inhumane Executioners Picked Up? The middle-aged man frowned. Then, he placed the sword on the table. Young friend, you may not be aware of the seriousness of the matter. While the quality of this sword is indeed outstanding, its origin is remarkable. Once certain individuals from the Divine Rotation Sect find out, they will undoubtedly cause trouble. It's a miracle that you're still alive. For many, you'll just be a commodity to be sold for the amount of bounty over your head. Jiang Hao wasn't surprised. He had walked in here, so he wasn't afraid. No matter what happened here, it had nothing to do with Jiang Hao in the southern region. No one could find him. Senior, do you mean to say that an innocent man will be killed for just carrying a treasure? Asked Jiang Hao. It's good that you get it, the middle-aged man said seriously. Keeping such a thing will lead to danger, especially for someone like you in the Golden Core realm like yourself. What price would you offer for this, senior? Jiang Hao asked. After thinking for a moment, the man said, since you claim to have picked it up, I'll give you 10,000 spirit stones for it. How about it? A good Golden Core realm treasure would fetch more than that, and this was a Soul Ascension realm treasure. Greed is dangerous. If we don't take this treasure, no one else here will, said the man. Jiang Hao was surprised. He hadn't used his cultivation to pressure him. Then, he began to negotiate. In the end, they settled on a deal of 48,000 spirit stones. Jiang Hao felt that the price of this particular treasure was more than that. However, the buyer hadn't tried to intimidate him by using his superior cultivation realm, so Jiang Hao hadn't used his own cultivation to threaten him either. Besides, if what the man said was true, keeping the treasure would be troublesome. He learned that many powerful figures had gone to the Mountain River Valley sect based on hearsay. If it weren't for the people from the Astronomical Academy and their astronomical scroll, Dole would have been dead by now. Jiang Hao couldn't help but admire Zhong from the Astronomical Academy stepping in and dragging the whole sect to protect one person. Her move was bold and extraordinary. It also meant that the ancient and modern book was very important to her. It also showed that the sects in the West took the matter of their dead disciples very seriously. He wanted to sell other treasures in the West, so he had to be more careful. It didn't matter if he earned less. He needed to stay safe. If it were in the East, there would be no danger because no one would recognize the treasures he had, and he could sell them at the usual market price. "Do you have anything else, young friend?" the middle-aged man asked with a smile. It seemed that the middle-aged man was satisfied with the transaction. Jiang Hao brought out another treasure. It was a golden wheel this time. Whether it was a treasure from the West or the North was unclear. The middle-aged man's smile froze on his face. "Did you also pick this up somewhere?" "Yes." Jiang Hao nodded. "We can't accept this one. This treasure belongs to Granny Kufa. She made it for her grandson. The imprint inside can't be erased. She might likely have already sensed it the moment you took it. She'll probably come looking for it," said the man. "How powerful is she?" Jiang Hao was curious. It's said that she's at the Immortal Ascension platform. Her cultivation realm isn't what you should fear. "She's difficult to deal with," said the middle-aged man with a sigh. "She is someone with the power of curses. Offending her means getting cursed. Your body will deteriorate, and inner demons will be born. It'll be inevitable. Whether it is me as a buyer or a smith melting it down, no one can escape her curse. So, no one here might accept this." Jiang Hao nodded. "Thank you for informing me. What about these items?" After putting away the golden wheel, Jiang Hao brought out primordial spirit and golden core treasures. This senior was reasonable, so he didn't need to find other buyers. The middle-aged man was stunned. He thought for a while and then looked at Jiang Hao and smiled. "Did you pick these up along the way too, friend?" "Senior, you have sharp eyes." Jiang Hao smiled and nodded. The middle-aged man checked them one by one. The ones he recognized were the ones some people had been asking around lately. The reason he recognized the treasures wasn't because he had sharp eyes but because many people had been asking for them lately. There had been a list of treasures being passed in the West. These treasures were all marked. It was done so that the treasure could be identified and returned to the owners. This young man claimed he had picked these treasures up somewhere. Was that really true? The buyer had heard about the matters in the corpse realm. He looked at Jiang Hao nervously. It was no wonder he hadn't been shocked when he heard about Granny Kufa. The middle-aged man had thought this person didn't know who she was, so he didn't know what she was capable of. However, now he understood that this person didn't really fear anyone. "Can you give me an estimate of the value?" "If you can't, then you can just keep it," said Jiang Hao. "Sure, no problem." The middle-aged man immediately called over the woman from before. "Prepare the best tea for this senior." "Senior?" She was puzzled but went to make the tea. Jiang Hao didn't mind. "Senior, you are really polite. In fact, this tea is quite good. By the way, do you happen to have September spring here?" "We do. Even if we don't sell it, we can prepare some for you. However, the season is almost over. In the following years, it will be difficult to buy September spring, and the price may also rise," the middle-aged man said. "By the way, I'm Wei Chuanda." "Nice to meet you, Senior Wei," said Jiang Hao. "You can call me whatever you want. You can just address me as a friend." Wei Chuanda smiled. "Sure, friend." After that, he examined the treasures. "Altogether, I can offer 260,000 spirit stones for all of these. It's not that we don't want to offer you more, but these items will bring trouble for us. Adding the previous 48,000 spirit stones, I can increase it to 310,000 spirit stones." Jiang Hao nodded. This had already exceeded his expectations. In his opinion, someone would always try to lower the price to around 100 or 200,000. If that happened, he would intimidate them. After all, they were all items he had picked up. "No problem," Jiang Hao nodded. Since these were things he didn't need, there was no harm in keeping them, but exchanging them for spirit stones would help improve his cultivation. Be careful with Granny Kufa. She might already know about you, said Wei Chuanda. Jiang Hao nodded without saying much. He was not afraid of curses. Meanwhile, an old woman who had been waiting for an opportunity in the Mountain River Valley sect suddenly looked back. Her eyebrows furrowed. She then looked delighted. I didn't expect it to be taken out so openly. I'll avenge you, my grandson. I'll kill your inhumane executioner even if I have to risk my life. Chapter 837. Facing Granny Kufa, he had earned a lot of spirit stones again. Combined with what he already had, there were over 320,000 spirit stones. For a moment, the spirit stones surpassed all he had before. He felt very wealthy. If he didn't use them to digest the divine soul of the Holy Master, he would have enough to buy tea or help plant high-grade spirit herbs. Senior, your tea is here, said Wei Chuanda. The one who brought the tea leaves was the woman from before. She saw that Senior Wei was so respectful toward this person and was somewhat shocked. She didn't understand what kind of person this was who demanded such respect. Is the season of September-spring almost over? Jiang Hao curiously asked. He didn't really understand when the right season was for the tea. Yes. The September-spring has to grow again. It takes 30 years for it to sprout, and 30 more years for it to mature. It takes another 30 years to prepare the tea leaves and another 10 years for it to appear on the market. Only after that, it is sold. It is said that there are only 81 batches in total. Theoretically, it is only sold for 81 years, with a 19-year gap. However, there will always be some places which will sell it. The last 10 years are a blank period. No one can get it anywhere, Wei Chuanda said. Is it difficult to grow? Jiang Hao asked curiously. It's not so difficult to grow, but obtaining the seeds is very difficult, Wei Chuanda said. How did they manage to cover all 4 territories if it's so difficult? Jiang Hao asked. It's easier if you know someone who grows September-spring. Do you know anyone like that? They are said to be backed by the end of all things. Senior, you might know about them. Jiang Hao nodded. He never expected that September-spring actually came from the end of all things. With such resources, why bother destroying the world? He then remembered the Chaos Stone Island. Not everyone felt the same even if they were in the end of all things. They seemed to have different roles and opinions. Some people changed their minds when they had the means to survive and felt like life was worth living. Some people from the end of all things were poor and resentful. Those who were poor felt that life was actually worth something once they had the means to survive, while those with hatred just wanted revenge even if it meant watching the world burn. As for the core members of the end of all things, they just wanted to end everything. But one thing couldn't be ignored. The end of all things was involved in everything. Many people had already been pulled into it. Now, it's the 9th year of the 19 years, he said. Almost. It will be difficult to buy it in the next 10 years, Wei Chuanda said. How much do you have? Jiang Hao asked. Since it's not easy to buy in the future, it was better to buy more right now. Fortunately, he didn't use it much, and 10 years would pass by quickly. There is probably 1 box left. It has 10 packets inside in total, Wei Chuanda said. What about red azure tea? Jiang Hao asked. Red azure tea is temporarily unavailable. It only appears once a year, but most of it has been booked BV some seniors, Wei Chuanda said. Jiang Hao was in disbelief. In such a city, it was not easy to buy these things. Would someone spend 200,000 to buy a box of tea? Jiang Hao hesitated as he looked at the tea leaves. His hard-earned spirit stones were diminishing quite quickly. After thinking for a moment, he finally chose to buy 5 packs of it. He spent 100,000 on it. He only had 220,000 spirit stones left. Senior Wei, do you know about the ancient city? Jiang Hao asked after receiving the tea leaves. The ancient city of the Astronomical Academy? Wei Chuanda asked. Jiang Hao walked to the window and pointed. That ancient city over there. That's the ancient city of the Astronomical Academy. It is said to be the former site of the Astronomical Academy. Later, for some reason, the Astronomical Academy was relocated to its current location. Some statues were left behind. It was later renamed the Ancient City, Wei Chuanda said. Relocated? Jiang Hao was surprised. Yes. It is said that the academy moved overnight. Everyone was shocked. Some big sects asked about it, but none of them could even enter the main gate, Wei Chuanda said. Jiang Hao nodded. They saw black clouds in the distance. Wei Chuanda was surprised. Cursed clouds. Senior, Granny Kufa's people are here. So soon. Jiang Hao was surprised. It might be her avatar, said Wei Chuanda. He looked anxious as if he wanted Jiang Hao to leave quickly. That way, he wouldn't be dragged into a kerfuffle. Jiang Hao didn't want to linger. He wanted to see the cursed black clouds. But he had to be careful. Once it was known he was the one who had killed all those people, the other sects would converge to kill him. He couldn't use the identity of Smiling San Sheng if that happened. He wondered if he should pose as Jiyu Jin. What kind of person was Jiyu Jin? He was probably proud and unmatched. But using this name would bring a lot of trouble too. After a moment of hesitation, Jiang Hao stopped thinking about it. He decided to be Jiyu Jin for the moment. Hopefully, he won't anger the Astronomical Academy. He took a step and disappeared. He blended in with the light and became one with the dust. Wei Chuanda narrowed his eyes. He had seen some tricks in Jiang Hao's technique. Is he from the Astronomical Academy? He was surprised to see that the Astronomical Academy was getting involved in the matter. Many people found Dole's situation strange. The fact that people from the Astronomical Academy would go to such lengths to protect someone was surprising. The person currently selling treasures was from the Astronomical Academy too. It was unbelievable. However, everyone knew the culprit was Smiling San Sheng. This person clearly wasn't from the Astronomical Academy. Or perhaps, the people from the Astronomical Academy had already found Smiling San Sheng and made a deal with him. That was possible. In the ancient city, Baizhu ate her noodles and looked out of the noodle shop. It's the same cultivator, said Baizhu excitedly. I wonder how strong that person is. What do you mean, princess? Qiao Yi asked curiously. Let's go out and take a look, Baizhu said with a smile. The two walked out to the street and saw a dark cloud in the distance. It doesn't seem too strong, just passable. I wonder who it is, said Baizhu. It's Granny Kufa, a middle-aged man said. Granny Kufa? Baizhu looked puzzled. The other person was dressed as a scholar. Baizhu was at the Golden Core realm. Senior, can you elaborate? Granny Kufa may not have extremely high cultivation, but her curses are outstanding, the middle-aged man said. Curses? Baizhu looked at the black cloud in disbelief. That should be her avatar. She has a peculiar treasure with powerful curses. Once it locks onto someone, it can unleash various potent curses. The caster can avoid the backlash. Moreover, the curses will be enhanced several times over, the middle-aged man said. Baizhu found it unbelievable. What kind of treasure was this? And why was this person making such a big fuss? It's a bit far. I can't see anything over there. Baizhu felt regretful. She wanted to go and take a look but had to stay back. The young waitress and the shopkeeper reminded her not to leave the ancient city until Granny Kufa was done with whatever she was doing. Although she didn't know why, Baizhu was willing to listen to them to avoid danger. Chapter 838. Let's go and see the corpse. A dark cloud swept in from outside the city. The person might not appear directly to kill. After all, there was a protective aura around the city, and entering it recklessly would be dangerous. So, Jiang Hao flew to the outside to let his enemy find him. He appeared in front of the dark cloud. The opponent seemed somewhat surprised. At that moment, a young woman stared fiercely from out of the dark cloud. She looked as though she wanted to tear him apart. The power of curses swept out like a hurricane. You murderer, she roared. Why did you kill my grandson? Who is your grandson? Jiang Hao asked. Yin Pingjiang. He was special, said the woman. Jiang Hao shook his head. Sorry. I don't know him. His golden wheel is in your hands. Isn't that true? I bought it. No, you killed him. You'll pay with your life. Jiang Hao was quite helpless. This person was truly mad. At that moment, the dark cloud rolled in. Jiang Hao didn't bring out the heavenly fate misfortune pearl, but he attempted to blast the person out of the dark clouds. He could then look for the main body. He raised his hand slightly and activated the mountain sea seal. At that moment, it seemed as if a mountain and sea condensed in the void. Suddenly, the mountain sea seal pressed down. The woman seemed to be in a bit of a daze. She felt the power of the curse being suppressed, and then the mountain sea seal touched her. Bang! The curse shattered, and the dark cloud disintegrated. The force of the mountains and seas rushed toward her. That vast momentum had the power to shatter the earth. It had a huge impact on her body and soul. Boom! In an instant, the mountain sea seal covered her. It crushed her body and extinguished her divine soul. In an instant, the dark cloud and the woman disappeared together. The curse vanished. Jiang Hao stood still and felt the changes in the mountain sea seal. The strike had been twice more powerful than before. He thought of 220,000 spiritual stones that he had. If he absorbed some more, would the power be even greater? He flew back to the city and wondered if the seal could become as formidable as the heavenly blade. If it could, then he would put aside the matter of growing spirit herbs for now. He didn't have the seeds anyway. But I didn't have a chance to ask about her main body. Such a pity. I don't know when she will come back. Jiang Hao was a bit disappointed. The avatar wasn't very strong, but the main body would probably bring more trouble. But it was just a curse. It had no effect on him. Suddenly, he thought of a possibility. The opponent used the golden wheel to lock onto him. If he placed the golden wheel together with the heavenly fate misfortune pearl, could she lock onto the misfortune pearl instead? Logically, it shouldn't work. It was impossible to lay a curse on the heavenly fate misfortune pearl unless the caster was remarkable. If not, they would just end up dead. Only those with sufficient strength could try to peek at the pearl and meet their demise. Wei Chuanda had been paying attention to the dark cloud. He wanted to see if that senior could withstand the attack. However, before he could even pay close attention to it, the clouds disappeared. The avatar of Granny Kufa disappeared. He was shocked. That senior was more powerful than he had expected. In the ancient city, Baizhu watched as the power of the curse disappeared suddenly. This amazed her. It was shattered by a great force. Who is that person? What kind of technique was that? Baizhu was confused. Later, she returned to the noodle shop to continue eating her noodles. The waitress stared outside in a daze. What's wrong? Baizhu asked. The waitress snapped back to reality. Just now, the boss came out and said that the aura of the academy is changing, and the convergence of ancient and modern times may really be happening. What is the convergence of ancient and modern times? Baizhu was quite curious. The waitress shook her head. She didn't know much about it. Baizhu didn't care and just told Xiao Yi to eat more noodles. Aren't you worried, princess? Xiao Yi asked. Worried about what? Baizhu asked. The convergence of ancient and modern times doesn't sound simple. Just my luck. I'm a person facing a crisis right now. What's one more calamity? Eat your noodles. Jiang Hao returned to the city and asked around about Yin Pingjiang. He had learned the name of Granny Kufa's grandson. He wasn't a good person. He was arrogant and always bullied those with weaker cultivation realms. He was the kind of person who wanted everything he set his eyes on. If he couldn't get it, he asked his grandma to curse them. People who didn't have much influence and weren't strong enough were terrified of him. Moreover, Yin Pingjiang acted like he was better than everyone. He wanted everyone to bow to him. He had killed entire families of people who offended him. Jiang Hao asked around and found that everyone gave him similar responses about him. He sighed. He didn't know how or when he had killed this person. However, Granny Kufa had been talking nonsense. She had said her grandson was special and obedient. Her grandson was the scum of the earth. Next time they meet, he would have to remind her of it. Back at the inn, Jiang Hao studied the mountain sea seal. The power of the mountain sea seal was not this strong before. With the support of the great power, the mountain sea seal almost had the power of something at the immortal ascension platform. But compared to other magical artifacts, it was still somewhat weaker. In terms of sealing something, it was unmatched by other magical techniques. He had rarely used the mountain sea seal for attacks. He wondered how effective it would be if he used it with the heavenly blade. With that idea in mind, he began his research. At the Astronomical Academy, a middle-aged man and a woman sat in a pavilion and exchanged some information. "Have you investigated the matter of the corpse?" the middle-aged man, Li Sanyuan, asked. He had a beard, and he looked frail. "Yes. There is indeed talk of a corpse. It's of the ancient king of the corpse clan," the woman, Kong Ying, said. Li Sanyuan frowned. "Is there a possibility of it awakening?" "In theory, no, but from the information we received, they used water from the corpse sea in the corpse realm, so, it's uncertain," she said. "The end of all things is indeed good at this. Since they attempted something like that, they might have found a way," Li Sanyuan said. "Have you tracked their location?" "Yes, but they are not core people of that organization," Kong Ying said. "I had someone investigate the old man corpse sea too. However, there is no clear information about him. If anyone wants water from the corpse sea, you can't do it without this person. We just need to stop him. Because of the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl, we don't have many people here. Mr. Jing and the others are outside, but I don't know if they will encounter Old Man Corpse Sea." Li Sanyuan sighed helplessly. "I have sent someone to check. If there is any information, it will reach us as soon as possible," Kong Ying said. As soon as she finished speaking, she received some news, and her brows furrowed. The person who was supposed to investigate seems to have disappeared. Li Sanyuan stood up. "Let's go. Let's check it out together. Leave a note for the master so he knows what we are doing." Chapter 839, Senior, Are You Hungry? The sea-sky forest was filled with trees. The forest covered 3 mountain ranges and 6 large mountains. Within, there were natural forces at play, and it made even powerful cultivators tread lightly. Finding someone inside was a daunting task. After a few days, Li Sanyuan and Kong Ying successfully arrived. The forest appeared no different from an ordinary one. It was tranquil and unremarkable. Only when someone entered it could they sense the danger there. As they approached, someone appeared by their side. "Senior Li, Senior Kong," they said in greeting. "What's the situation now?" Li Sanyuan asked. "I'm not sure. All I know is that there's indeed an area inside. Junior Sheng went in but never came out. We tried various communication methods but couldn't reach him. Later, Senior Lu went in and also disappeared," the young man said. "Lead the way," Li Sanyuan said. As they looked at their surroundings, there was no sign of the boundary of the corpse sea. There was still time. The 3 proceeded inside. After a short while, they came upon a small hill. A formation lit up. Trying to challenge it would be like provoking the entire sea-sky forest. "It's indeed unusual." Li Sanyuan frowned. Then, he instructed the academy disciples. "The 2 of us will go in first. You stay outside and observe. If anything happens, seek the academy's help. Mr. Jing is not here. Try to find him if you can." After giving the orders, Li Sanyuan and Kong Ying entered the formation together. In their opinion, even if they were outmatched, the formation should not affect them. However, upon entering, they encountered a surging colossal wave. It radiated rot and decay. In shock, they exerted their power to repel the seawater. Afterward, rising into the air, they saw that an endless sea had covered the entire sea-sky forest. "When did this happen?" Li Sanyuan was astonished. "We must leave immediately." However, 2 figures emerged from the void. They looked somewhat old. Their eyes radiated decay. "Corpse extinction elders." Li Sanyuan furrowed his brow. "You're still alive. The Astronomical Academy is still standing. How can we die?" This time, you can't leave. We have invested a lot of effort, and there is no chance of failure, said the corpse extinction elder. I will hold them off. Li Sanyuan glanced at Kong Ying. The latter didn't hesitate and began to flee. Boom. A fierce battle erupted. No matter how they fought, they couldn't stop the corpse sea from covering everything around them. The sea-sky forest had become the corpse sea forest. Jiang Hao had been experimenting for several days and finally made some progress. The mountain sea seal enhanced sealing techniques, such as the universe in a palm. It was much stronger than before. There were also various enhancements for magical treasures, especially the immortal mountain sea shield, which had its defensive power increased. The 7 forms of Heavenly Blade each were enhanced in different ways, except the 3rd and 4th forms. The first form, Moon Slaying, was enhanced slightly. The remaining were Inquiry and Mountain Suppression. The Inquiry technique had quite a few enhancements, given the overwhelming advantage of the Mountain Sea Seal. The Mountain Suppression technique was enhanced only slightly. The original technique that had the pressure of 100 mountains now encompassed the grandeur of the seal. The strength of that technique had increased by more than 30%. It was incredible. He threw in another 120,000 spirit stones. At that moment, it felt as if there were 2 strands of the Mountain Sea Seal within the original Mountain Sea Seal. His strength had begun to approach an ordinary immortal ascension platform cultivator. Now, with only 100,000 spirit stones left, he dared not spend them recklessly. He felt something strange. Despite being so wealthy, he hesitated to spend the spirit stones. He sighed. Jiang Hao understood the reason. When he used spirit stones to consume the divine soul of the Holy Master, it ran out too quickly. He was worried it wouldn't be enough. For the past few days, he had been waiting for Granny Kufa, but unfortunately, she had not arrived yet. He didn't know how long it would take. Fortunately, he could afford to wait. As for the situation in the sea-sky forest, there was no news yet. After a while, he went to Hong Yuye's room. He wanted to go to the ancient city. Perhaps there would be some clues there. He didn't want to act recklessly. He wanted to wait for the outbreak in the sea-sky forest. In doing so, he could prepare beforehand. If the Astronomical Academy could prevent the appearance of corpses in the sea-sky forest, that would be great. Senior, do you want to go to the ancient city to look for clues? It was too far away, so he didn't dare go alone. Once beyond a certain distance, the influence of Hong Yuye on him would disappear. Strong cultivators and spies would be able to see through him. Did you find any clues? Hong Yuye asked. Yes. There are some leads, Jiang Hao reluctantly said. In reality, he hadn't started looking for the ancient pages yet. The main focus was the sea-sky forest. He only knew the rough location of the Gentian cliff. He needed to ask around. He had deliberately avoided asking because he didn't want to decide whether to go there yet. If he didn't know about it, there was no need to hurry. Hong Yuye chuckled. He got up and walked outside. Jiang Hao quickly followed. This time, it wouldn't take long to get there. They could reach it on the same day. However, as he followed Hong Yuye, he felt the surrounding objects receding in a way he couldn't understand. After a short while, they stood before a city. The words ancient city were written on it. People coming and going were mostly ordinary folks. Excuse us, please make way, said a middle-aged man behind them. Jiang Hao looked back and saw a middle-aged man in his 40s pushing a cart. He quickly stepped aside. Fortunately, Hong Yuye followed along, or else the man would have had to take a detour. The man appeared to be around 30, but he looked older than he was because of exhaustion. Upon closer inspection, Jiang Hao realized the man might be younger than him. This was the difference between ordinary people and cultivators. He made his way forward. He didn't deliberately avoid the crowd or use his power to clear a path. He just watched out for Hong Yuye and tried his best to prevent anyone else from bumping into her. He didn't mind the crowd himself. She didn't care about other people. She just didn't want people getting in her way. There were quite a few people here, but he didn't care. Jiang Hao felt that even if he pretended to be one of them, He was still different from the people making a living here. They lived under this sky. They farmed and harvested their crops and worked from sunrise to sunset. This place was lively. As for himself, although he seemed better off than countless others, he didn't feel fulfilled. It felt like he would be struck down any moment. He was unsure where he would end up next. He felt like he was stuck in one place. He sighed and looked at the shops around the city. "Senior, are you hungry?" he asked. Hong Yuye was surprised, but she nodded. She felt that he had changed in some way. Chapter 840. The chef of the noodle shop. There were many noodle shops on the street, and Jiang Hao felt it was worth a try. But which one to choose? He passed by the nearest one and found that it was doing exceptionally well. There was a queue to get a meal. Jiang Hao didn't prefer such a bustling place. It was noisy and could easily irritate Hong Yuye. If he were alone, he wouldn't mind. If someone accidentally offended her, there would be a disaster. These people had faced enough hardships in their lives. There was no need to put them in danger. He continued walking forward and saw a roast chicken place, which was also crowded. As he walked on, many shops were full of people, with only a few tables available. However, as they progressed down the street, the number of people lessened. Jiang Hao walked all the way forward and didn't find a shop he liked until he saw a small noodle shop in the corner. It was small and fairly empty. No one cared about it. Even if people passed by, they wouldn't give it a second glance. It was not normal. When things deviated from the norm, something usual was definitely bound to happen. Just as Jiang Hao was about to leave, Hong Yuye walked inside. He was surprised. "Senior, what's wrong?" Hong Yuye turned to look at Jiang Hao. "This shop is just ordinary," Jiang Hao said. "You never know until you try," she said and walked inside. Jiang Hao sighed and could only follow her inside. He was even more certain that this shop was not ordinary. Hong Yuye had gone in willingly. "When will your boss come out?" Baizhu looked at the waitress. "I don't know. The boss said she'll come out whenever she's not busy." She had a ponytail and stood politely on the side and waited for customers to come in. "Why is your boss so busy when there are so few customers here?" Baizhu, a QLCPD, "I don't know. She says she's busy every day." Baizhu didn't know whether her luck was good or bad now. She was thinking about how to break her good luck. At that moment, footsteps approached, and two people entered. A man and a woman. The woman looked ordinary and was at the foundation establishment realm. Her steps were firm. Behind her was an ordinary man at the middle stage of the golden core realm. However, when the man saw her, he seemed surprised. "Does he recognize me?" Baizhu was also surprised. He composed himself and looked indifferent. She wondered if it had just been her imagination. "I don't know them, but maybe they know me," Baizhu thought. "Who could it be? There shouldn't be anyone in the West who recognizes me." She wanted to ask for the person's name. Xiao Yi noticed the two people. They seemed strange. Are they like the seniors from before? She was on high alert. Baizhu, on the other hand, was quite calm. But she found it a bit difficult to maintain her composure because the waitress suddenly looked at the kitchen. Baizhu was puzzled. A woman dressed as a chef came out of the kitchen. She looked quite ordinary. "Boss," the waitress said. Baizhu was surprised. She stood up. The boss had suddenly appeared. Even more surprising was that the boss didn't even look in their direction. She walked straight to the two customers who had just sat down. "What would you like to eat?" she asked politely. Baizhu was shocked. Who are these people? Why did the boss personally come to welcome them? She didn't care before, but now it seemed like these two were extraordinary. She just didn't know why. Xiao Yi wasn't surprised. She realized that if someone had a lower cultivation realm, they were bound to be someone important. Jiang Hao was shocked. Why is Baizhu here? He then remembered what Senior Dan Yuan had said. He had mentioned a noodle shop to ask about her condition. It had been several months. She was bound to be here. He had only thought about it briefly. Who would have known they would meet here? Moreover, the chef seemed to be the boss here. Seeing Baizhu's reaction, Jiang Hao understood that it was strange for the chef to receive customers. Was it because of Hong Yuye? 2 bowls of beef noodles, Jiang Hao said. The chef nodded. May I ask what kind of beef you would prefer? We have regular beef, spirit beast mountain beef, and ancient azure sea beef. Regular is fine, Jiang Hao said. He felt that the owner of the shop was also a bit strange, so he didn't want to hold her here for long. He wanted to leave as soon as he finished eating. All right. Please wait a while, said with a nod. The waitress poured tea for them while they waited. Baiju also walked to them. Seniors, do you know the chef of this shop personally? Jiang Hao shook his head and remained silent. He didn't know what to say. It was better to keep quiet. Baiju didn't dare to say much either. She could only return to her seat and wait quietly. This was the strangest thing that had happened here. She didn't know why this was happening. She turned to the waitress. The waitress looked at her and shook her head. After a short while, 2 bowls of beef noodles were served. Meat fillings filled the bowls more than the noodles. Baiju felt that the chef was being too extravagant, but she didn't point it out. She wanted to see what the chef would say. Jiang Hao looked at the noodles in front of him and felt something strange. Beef noodles should be ordinary, but there was something about the aroma. He took a bite. It was the most delicious thing he had ever eaten. Hong Yuye only took a few bites and stopped eating. Is it not to your taste? The chef asked softly. She had been standing there the whole time. Hong Yuye didn't respond. She just turned and looked at the chef. Jiang Hao finished eating. How much should we pay for this? He wanted to pay and leave as soon as possible. Our shop has an interesting policy. Anyone who comes here for the first time gets their meal for free. You don't need to pay, but I would be grateful if you could mention your names, said the chef. Name? Jiang Hao said calmly. He didn't know the chef's intention. It was not a big deal to introduce oneself by name, but it was strange when someone asked for it outright. Hong Yuye remained calm. Jiang Hao looked at the chef. Can't I just choose to pay with spirit stones? He didn't want to use Smiling San Sheng's name since Baiju was here. He didn't want to use Jiu Jin's either. He felt that this chef was not ordinary. The chef looked at Jiang Hao and said softly, Senior, since you've already returned, why hide? Jiang Hao was confused. What did that mean? You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.